Hello everyone, thanks for tuning in. Today we'll be walking through a complete overview of the Azure Enterprise Portal from the perspective of Direct Customer Enterprise Administrator. This information also applies to indirect customers who have a cost view. Indirect customers will need to reach out to their partner and request that the partner publish the pricing in order to have visibility into cost reporting. Without published pricing, they will only see usage information in the Reports tab. Now, Enterprise Azure is actually administered across a couple of different websites, or portals as we call them. We'll actually take a look at both of those, as well as the main roles used to access the portals. There's actually 4 main roles that control your level of access across those websites. Now, before we dive in, I do want to provide you just a little bit of background on those sites and those roles. Then we can see how everything looks live within the Enterprise Portal, as well as the second portal, the Azure Portal. So the Enterprise Portal, that's ea.azure.com. Within the Enterprise Portal, that's primarily where your enterprise administrators set up departments, accounts, assign owners to those accounts, and create subscriptions. This is also where the department administrators control their departments and manage the accounts and subscriptions within their departments. We'll actually dive into those roles and what those look like here in just a moment. Next, we have the Azure Portal, and that's portal.azure.com. Now, this is something you may already be familiar with if you've used a pay-as-you-go subscription or a free trial subscription in the past. Whenever you create a subscription, you access that subscription via the Azure Portal. Again, that's portal.azure.com. This is actually where you manage the technical side of Azure. So new deployments, whether that's virtual machines, websites, storage, backup, whatever the case is from a technical perspective, that is all handled and managed within the Azure Portal. The Enterprise Portal is actually just a layer on top of the Azure Portal. That's designed to help you manage multiple accounts and subscriptions throughout your organization. It also allows you to group those accounts and subscriptions into what we call departments. Assign administrators to those departments to manage those accounts and subscriptions. We'll dive deeper into the departments as well as the roles here in just a moment. Now, like I mentioned, that's just a very quick overview of the two sites. The Azure Portal is where you handle the technical side of Azure. The Enterprise Portal is more of an administrative site where you create new accounts, new subscriptions, are able to control access, and also report on your cost and usage. There are 4 distinct roles that control your level of access across those two sites. Starting at the top, we have the Enterprise Administrator. The Enterprise Administrator adds departments, adds accounts, also assigns department admins and account owners to those accounts. The Enterprise Administrator has access to all of the cost, all of the usage data, and they'll be able to report on not only how much you're spending month over month, but how much and what each user is doing day to day. There's no limit to the number of Enterprise Administrators that you can have. The Enterprise Administrator, though, is a role of overseer for your Enterprise Azure environment. The Enterprise Administrator has the ability to create departments. They can also assign an administrator to those departments. The department administrator basically oversees their department, and basically, that entails creating and managing the accounts within their department based on the projects they're going to be working on. Now, one thing to note is that you cannot be both an Enterprise Administrator and a department administrator. And that is because the Enterprise Administrators simply have, by default, the full capabilities of a department admin. It's a redundant role. Think of it more so as if I would like to delegate the responsibility of a particular department to someone on my team. I would assign that person as the administrator of the department. Then that department admin would create and manage the accounts within that department, based on the projects they are going to be working on. When an enterprise administrator or a department administrator create an account, they have to assign an owner to the account. It could be themselves, or again, they could choose to further delegate that responsibility to someone on their team. Now, the account's owner's responsibility is to create the subscriptions within their account. Each subscription is just a container for your Azure services. After you create the subscriptions, you access those subscriptions via the Azure portal, and that's where you actually deploy your technical services, whether those are VMs, app services, backup, site recovery, whatever the case is from a technical perspective. The account owners are the overseers of subscriptions. They have full control of the subscriptions that they create, and they're actually assigned a role called the service administrator within those subscriptions. The service administrator is the controller, basically synonymous with the account owner. They have the ability to create services within the subscriptions. They control access within the subscription. Not even the enterprise administrator or the department admin actually have access inside of the subscription, unless the account owner or service administrator grants it to them. The account owner can assign access, can grant access inside of the subscriptions that they create by adding those users through role-based access in a variety of predefined or customized roles. We'll see what that looks like once we get down to the subscription level. That's a very quick overview of the roles and the portals. Now we'll kind of see everything in action here within the Azure Enterprise Portal. Again, starting at the top, the Enterprise Portal, that's ea.azure.com. Now, when you log into the Azure Enterprise Portal, you'll come to this page. This is the enrollment detail page. Actually, this is a page only the enterprise administrators have access to. You'll notice here on the left side, you have some information on your company, and then on the right side, you're seeing all of the enterprise administrators listed out. Now, I do want to highlight all of the editable features here that you're seeing with the blue pen next to them, starting with the authentication level. Within Enterprise Azure, you have two main methods of authentication that you can use to log in and out of the Azure Enterprise Portal. Of course, we have Microsoft accounts. Anyone can create a Microsoft account. You simply go to signup.live.com, and there you have the ability to create a Microsoft account. You can use an existing email address, or we can provide one to you. Those are your @live, your @outlook, or your @hotmail.com email addresses. Basically, you set up the username and the password right then and there, and you can think of it as those usernames and passwords sitting in a database of Microsoft accounts that sits outside of your company. The Enterprise Portal, when you log in, is communicating with that database of Microsoft accounts, checks the username, checks the password, and grants you access. Now, the key here is that those Microsoft accounts sit outside of your company. They're managed by each individual user. The alternative would be what we call work or school accounts. These work or school accounts must be available in the cloud through Azure Active Directory. An Office 365 email address, for example, is in the Azure Active Directory, or AAD. Other customers link their on-premise Active Directory or other account directory to AAD using AAD Connect. You can use those accounts to log in and out of the Azure Enterprise Portal. Now, that's generally the preferred method because those sit inside of your company. They're managed by the company as opposed to the individual user. So you'll notice here you have the option Microsoft account only. Of course, that allows only Microsoft accounts. Work or school only, meaning you can only use those federated work accounts from Azure Active Directory. You'll also notice mixed account, which gives you the option of both, either a Microsoft account or a work or school account. That's what we have configured here. Finally, you'll notice work or school account cross-tenant. Work or school cross-tenant allows you to add accounts from multiple Azure Active Directories. Each account will authenticate to its own directory. If you do have, let's say, a third-party or partner organization that you're working with that needs access into the Azure Enterprise Portal, and you would like them to use their work accounts, you can switch this to cross-tenant long enough to add their accounts. When they log in, they will be authenticating to their native Azure Active Directory. They can operate in your portal in the roles you assign. Now, if you scroll further down here, you'll notice a few other editable features, starting with the Azure Marketplace. The Azure Marketplace is just an online store for third-party applications that you can incorporate into your solution. The reason that it's enabled or disabled here is because those services are charged separately. The marketplace services do not consume from your monetary commitment. Instead, you'll receive a separate invoice for those. So if you only want to consume native Azure services, you can disable this entirely. At the moment, this is an all-or-nothing type of feature, so enabling or disabling it here will affect all of your accounts and subscriptions. You will also notice DA and AO view charges. That stands for Department Admin and Account Owner View Charges. So by default, the department admins and account owners, when they click over to the Reports tab, they're only going to see usage details. If you enable them here, they will also see the cost related to the usage. So this is just company reference, whether you want them to be able to see that financial information. One thing to note is that the department admins and the account owners will only be able to see the cost and usage details from their department or from their account. They will not be able to see the details from other departments and other accounts. Up here towards the top right again, you're seeing the Enterprise Administrators. To add a new Enterprise Administrator, you simply click plus Add Administrator and complete the information here. Currently, we have authentication set to mixed accounts, so you would need to select between Microsoft accounts or work or school accounts. Then you simply enter the email address, confirm the email address. Now there is a separate box here for a notification contact. This is mostly for accounts that don't have a routable email address. Some companies use work or school accounts called User Principal Names or UPNs to an Azure Active Directory administrator that don't correlate to the company email address. You can enter that email here, and in that way you can receive the notifications to your email address of choice. By default, you do get a weekly email just giving you a quick breakdown of the cost and usage from the previous period. You can change the frequency of those emails to daily, weekly, monthly, or none at all. Now, lifecycle notification suppression, that's to disable. Checking this box will actually disable notifications that you receive near the end of your agreement related to next steps. Then finally, read-only yes or no. That allows you to add a read-only enterprise administrator. When you do add an enterprise administrator, you'll notice their name, their email address pop into the list here of enterprise administrators. Once you have added an enterprise administrator, you can edit the details by selecting the blue pen here, or of course, deleting them entirely by selecting the blue X. You'll also notice that there's a separate section here for notification contacts. Here, you're not actually adding an enterprise administrator, but basically someone just to receive the notification emails. These users will not be able to log into the enterprise portal, but they will get either the daily, weekly, or monthly email based on the selection you make here. That's pretty much it for the enrollment detail page. Once you've added your enterprise administrators, you can now go on to configure your departments. Again, the departments are not a requirement, but they do have some benefit, really in terms of reporting and access. Adding departments allows you to group a set of accounts and subscriptions based on, let's say, the team, the unit, perhaps the organization, or the department of your company that they're actually supporting. Adding departments allows you to group a set of accounts and subscriptions based on, let's say, the team, the unit. For example, a possible use case would be if you have multiple locations throughout the globe. Let's say your headquarters is in Redmond, Washington, but you have offices in New York, London, England, maybe as far as Sydney, Australia. What you can do is set up each location of your company as a department, then assign perhaps the local head of IT within each office as the administrator of that department. That department administrator will go on to create the accounts and subscriptions that are needed for the projects that they'll be working on within each office. So now, as the enterprise administrator from headquarters, I have a breakdown of how much the entire company is spending on Azure. Then I can also very quickly and easily isolate each individual office location because they're set up as different departments here within the enterprise portal. You could also, of course, set it up to match the departmental setup within your company if you do have projects that you know will be supporting the marketing department. Maybe a separate set of projects that are supporting finance, accounting, sales, and so on. You can set up each department of your organization, of your company, as a department here. Then, of course, you have the same kind, all up number, the complete picture of how much the company is spending on Enterprise Azure. But then you can, of course, quickly isolate one particular department over any period of time to evaluate how much they are spending versus other departments within your organization. Now, you'll notice here in this test portal, we've created a number of departments. To create a new department, very simply, you select plus add department here. You enter the department name. You can optionally assign a cost center. You can also assign a spending quota. One thing to note here, this spending quota is not a hard cap. Instead, it allows you to enter a dollar amount here, and the system will notify the enterprise administrators as well as the department administrator when this department reaches 50, 75, 90, and 100% of that amount. It will allow them to go beyond that amount. It's not a hard cap. The last thing that Enterprise Azure wants to do is shut down any services you have running in production. Instead, it's there to serve as a reminder in case you're not actively paying attention to the spend that's accruing within this particular department. It's very quick and easy to add a department. Once you select Add Here, you'll notice the department pop into the list here on the left side. Once you create a department, you'll notice you can click into the department to edit the details that you filled in when creating the account, and also to assign an administrator to the department. The department admin is basically the overseer of this department. They will be responsible for creating, managing the accounts within this department based on the projects that they'll be working on. You can also assign an administrator to multiple departments by selecting the plus Add Administrator here, entering in the information, and then selecting the departments you would like them to be the administrator of. That's pretty much it for the department section here. We'll come back to the departments once we dive into the reports, and I'll show you how we can isolate costs for a particular department over any given period of time. When you click over into the Account tab, you'll notice that I selected this department from the department page. So it filters to that department here, and it's showing me the accounts within that department. Now this particular department is empty, but when I select the drop-down, I can click into All Departments, and now it's showing me every single account from all of the departments within my Azure Enterprise portal. To create a new account, you simply select plus Add Account here. You'll notice you can place it directly into a department or leave it unassigned for the time being. That setting is very easy to edit after the fact. You select the authentication type, and then you enter the information from there. You can name the account however you'd like. Typically, you'll notice that customers name the account either simply the name of the person who will be managing the account, or of course, something indicative of the project, the main workload that will be running within this account. You assign an owner to the account by adding their email address or UPN here. The enterprise administrator or department admin can assign themselves as the owner of the account, or they can choose to delegate that responsibility to someone on their team. The account owner oversees the technical side of Azure deployments, essentially creating and managing the subscriptions day by day. You can again assign a cost center here for reporting purposes. Then, once you select Add, you'll notice the account pop into the list here on the left side. One thing that's important to note, whenever you do add an account, at first that account will be added into a pending state. That account owner is also sent an email, but whether they receive the email or not, that account owner very simply needs to log into ea.azure.com to activate their account. Once active, that account owner will be able to come in and add subscriptions to their account. Once you do have an active account, you can click over to Subscription and create subscriptions. We'll see what that looks like in just a moment. The enterprise administrator or the department administrators will be able to come in here and edit that account as needed. Now, when you hover over the account, you'll notice a few options appear here. The first, a blue pencil to edit the name, the department, and the cost center of that account. You'll also notice you have the option to check this Dev Test box. Now, what that does is that enables this particular account owner to create enterprise Dev Test subscriptions. The Dev Test subscriptions are devoted to Dev Test, but should only be used by Visual Studio subscribers. One caveat to keep in mind is that there is no production level SLA provided for these subscriptions. So of course, production workloads will have to run in a regular enterprise subscription. Checking this box simply enables this account owner to create Dev Test subscriptions. We'll see what that looks like in just a moment. Now you'll notice you also have the option to delete the account entirely. and then you'll notice two additional features here, one being Change Account Owner. If an account owner were to leave the organization, you can quickly and easily transfer all of the subscriptions from that account owner to another by simply selecting Change Account Owner and going through the process here. It'll ask you to confirm the source account as well as the target account, and you hit Submit here to complete the process. Please note the warnings that when changing authentication directories, all subscription roles are lost, so proceed with caution. This is also the option to transfer subscriptions. Now, this simply will allow you to pick. If you needed to transfer one subscription from account A to account B, this will be the option that you use. Here, it's asking me to select the subscription from the source account. Now, this account only has one subscription, so only one subscription is listed here. When I select Next, again, it asks me to select the target account. I select the target account, and then from there again, I confirm the details and select Submit to complete the process. This is pretty much it for the account page here. Now that we have an account that is active, we are ready to click over to Subscription and actually add subscriptions to that account. When an account owner does click over to subscriptions, they are seeing simply these subscriptions tied to their account. Account owners have the option to edit and just enter a cost center here. You do have the ability to edit the subscription name and edit other subscription details after it's created within the Azure portal. For now, we're ready to click plus Add Subscription to add a subscription. One thing to note here is that when you do select plus Add Subscription to create a new subscription, oftentimes you'll notice that you need to enable pop-ups in order for the subscription to create properly. Otherwise, this will not open. The first time you create a subscription, you will be asked some questions about the owner, but subsequently you'll notice step number 1 in creating a new subscription is simply selecting an offer type. Here I have that Dev Test box selected, so now you're seeing the option for an Enterprise Dev Test subscription. Now again, the Enterprise Dev Test subscription does offer Visual Studio subscriber rates. It also gives you access to some VM images that aren't available to production subscriptions. The caveat here is that the workloads running within this subscription must be devoted to Dev Test. In fact, the services running within these subscriptions are not backed by production SLAs. So if the services were to go down, there's no credit available for not meeting production subscription SLAs. It's important that you run your production workloads within the Microsoft Azure Enterprise subscription. This is the normal production-ready subscription. The Enterprise Dev Test, again, is for Dev Test workloads exclusively. Once you do select the subscription type, the system will guide you through the remaining options. If this is the first subscription you've ever created, it will ask you to confirm your name, phone number, and email address. Once you do that, it will take you to this page where typically, if you were signing up for a free trial or pay-as-you-go subscription, it would have you enter your payment information. Now here, the payment is handled through your EA, so the system is simply asking you to acknowledge that this subscription is governed by your enterprise agreement. One important thing to note is that it says purchase here. We're not actually purchasing anything at this stage. Instead, we are simply creating a subscription. The subscription itself does not have any cost associated with it. The subscription is simply a container for Azure services. You can think of it as creating an empty container. We do not actually accrue any charges until we go inside of that subscription and actually add billable services to it. This page will redirect us to a page that simply says, please give us a few minutes while we create the subscription. It can take a few minutes to create a subscription. While that subscription is creating, let's click back over to the Azure Enterprise portal and we'll take a look at the Reports page. The Reports page is where you're going to get a breakdown of your Azure commitment as well as your monthly usage, your cost against that commitment. Now you'll notice you can filter any particular year or term within your enterprise agreement. Now we have a quick month-over-month breakdown of how we consumed against our commitment within that particular term. Now for this enrollment, you'll notice that it started with a $12,000 commitment. This blue line represents the commitment that you start with, and it is going to change month over month. Most likely decrease month over month as your Azure usage grows. The green bar here represents your commitment usage. That's your normal Azure usage across all of the different accounts and subscriptions you have created. So this particular company started with a $12,000 commitment, and they actually used the majority of it in 1 month alone, $11,103. Now you'll also notice a small amount of purple here. Purple represents the Azure Marketplace. Again, the Azure Marketplace is charged separately, so it's also shown separately here. The next month, the commitment balance updates to subtract out the previous month's usage. We have a remaining balance of $196. That's the beginning balance in month number 2. We actually used all of that, the remaining commitment, $890 in the month, and we actually surpass it by $4,743. That's what you're seeing in red here. That is the service overcharge. That simply indicates usage beyond the Azure commitment balance. Service overage is charged at the same rates as your normal Azure usage. It is charged after the fact or in arrears. You're sent a separate invoice for that usage. You'll also notice some marketplace charges. $739 here, shown in purple. The next month, we have 0 commitment balance left, and we're operating 100% in overage. $5,749 of overage, as well as $2,400 of Azure Marketplace services. You'll notice you can click on any particular month, and the date on the right side of the page here is going to update. It also updates below. The bar graph is showing you very high-level information across all of the different accounts and subscriptions within your organization. When you scroll down here, you'll notice Charge by Services. You have the ability to see all of the individual services, the amount that was consumed, the unit cost, as well as the total charge, all adding up to the $11,000 that we spent in the month of July. If you scroll further down here, you'll also see a similar breakdown of your marketplace services, as well as the charges billed separately if you had any. Of course, this is showing you again usage from all of the different departments, accounts, and subscriptions that you have created. You'll notice you can quickly and easily filter down to a particular department, account, or subscription to get a view to just isolate the usage to a particular department, account, or subscription. You can also select Charge by Hierarchy here. It's the same data, but in a separate view. You'll notice when you come down here, you'll see all of the different departments that you created. When you select a department, let's select Third-Party Company Department. For instance, now the system will filter to show you the accounts within that department as well as their total spend. So I can see here a third-party company has 3 accounts within it. One account is empty, one account has $2,283 of usage, the other has $265 of usage. Now, when I select the account, I also see the subscriptions within that account. I can select the subscription. You'll notice the drop-down boxes here automatically update, and when I select Charge by Service, it shows me the same data that we saw previously, but with these filters applied. I can click to any particular month and see how that changes month over month within the same filters applied. There's also Download Usage here. This is where you can download the usage into a comma-separated file for further analysis. You have a few different options as far as how you download the usage. Using Advanced Report Download, you can select any date range, select the account in question. Once you hit Request Usage Data, it'll load here on the right side, allowing you to download that data. You'll notice here my most recent request is still processing. If I select Refresh, now I have the ability to download that data. There is also the Monthly Report Download. Very simply, if I'd like to download the same data just month over month, I can do so here. The balance and charge file, that's showing you the high-level beginning balance, end balance, total usage month over month. Usage detail is where I get the most detailed breakdown of each individual account and subscription and service by day. Marketplace charges is the same level of detail for metered marketplace services. Marketplace services that bill monthly are only found in the usage summary. Finally, a price sheet is provided for each month so that you can reconcile the prices in each month with the service prices for that month. We'll actually dive into the usage detail file in greater detail in a different video that you'll see on the site as well. For now, I'm going into the price sheet. Again, this is the same data that you would download in Excel here. but the price sheet is going to list out every single Azure service as well as the Azure rate here. This includes any discounts you have negotiated through your enterprise agreement. You'll also have the option to look at your EA portal data and Power BI. This section refers to the help file content, where you can learn more about how to use the API access keys to get the usage data to Power BI using a customized content pack called Microsoft Azure Consumption Insights. Basically, you'll need to note the enterprise enrollment number, which is displayed on the enrollment detail page. It's also displayed here at the top left corner of the page. Then also, when you come to download usage, you'll notice the API access key. You can create and download the API key, which is only valid for 6 months at a time, and use that along with the enrollment number to allow Power BI to pull the enrollment data for use in Power BI. That's a quick overview of the reporting page. As I mentioned, look for another video posted to this site with a deeper dive into reporting. For now, let's take a look at the subscription that we were creating earlier. You'll notice that this subscription is ready. Basically, when you select Get Started with your Azure subscription, now it takes us to the other portal, the Azure portal, portal.azure.com. This is going to be where you actually manage your technical deployments. To create a new service, of course, you simply select the service in question, follow the steps that form that page, or you can start here, create a resource. The system will walk you through each step of the process. Here are most popular services listed, but of course you can click into any section, whether that's compute, networking storage, and so on, and create your virtual machines, your app service, whatever the case is from a technical perspective. I'd like to focus more so on the administrative side of the portal, essentially controlling access as well as engaging support. When an account owner does create a subscription, at that point in time, they are the only person with access to that subscription and the services configured. If they would like to give their team members access, you simply select Subscriptions here. It's going to list out every single subscription that you have tied to the account that you're currently logged in with. I've created a number of different subscriptions. If I select the subscription in question, the site loads to give me an overview on the subscription, a breakdown of the cost, a spending rate and forecast, some administrative information here. You'll notice I have the ability to cancel the subscription, essentially deleting the subscription. I can rename the subscription here as well or change the directory. For now, I'd like to select Access Control, and this will allow me to manage the access within this subscription. In order to add new users to the subscription, we'll do so through role-based access. You simply select plus add here. Step number 1 is to select a role. Now you can restrict the level of access you grant at the subscription level by selecting the appropriate role. You can hover over the gray circle here to get a quick breakdown of what each role can do. The 3 at the top are the 3 most common pre-populated roles, starting with the owner. The owner is essentially a co-owner of this subscription. They can do everything. They can add, manage, delete services, as well as add or delete other users. The contributor. They can add, manage, or delete services, but they cannot add or delete other users. Then, of course, the reader. That is read only across the board. You have the ability to refine and define custom roles and access. Perhaps there's someone on your infrastructure team that needs access to virtual machines, but they do not need access to your app service deployments or any other deployments that you have. If that's the case, you can add them as a virtual machine contributor. This gives them access to virtual machines, add, manage, delete virtual machines, but not any other services here. Once I do select the user and the role, I simply hit Save here. I will get some confirmation that this user is being added. And now this user will be able to log into the portal.azure.com with their own credentials, and they will have access to this particular subscription. The last thing that I wanted to highlight here is support. At the time of this recording, a year's worth of technical support is included for free with every Azure Enterprise agreement. When you select the icon here at top right, this question mark, you'll notice the Help plus Support icon. If you give this a click, it'll redirect you to this Help plus Support section of the Azure portal. Now here, you will notice that you have access to the forums if you wanted to pose a question to the community. You also have access to the documentation, A great resource, a great site for guides, tutorials, articles, blog posts on nearly every single Azure service. If you do need to engage the actual support engineers, you simply select plus New Support Request here. First, the system will have you select an issue type. Technical is for all technical issues. Billing, that refers to issues around billing and invoicing. Subscription management, quite simply, issues around subscription management, whether it's renaming a subscription or a role-based access. You'll also notice that there's quota support here. Quota is a little bit less self-explanatory. Every Azure subscription comes with a default quota attached to it. The quota refers to the amount of services you can deploy within it. The quotas are put in place to prevent a scenario in which you over-provision services in error, and to make sure that the data center has the capacity for all of the services in the subscriptions running there. If you do know you have a large project coming up, and you're worried about hitting these quotas, you can submit a ticket here to get them raised for the subscription. Once you select the issue type, you select the subscription in question, and the system will guide you through the remaining steps. It'll ask you to briefly describe the issue, select any problem type, select a title, and describe the issue here. You have the option to upload additional files, enter some contact information, and get the ticket submitted at the end of the process. It will provide you with an expected contact timeframe. That covers the bulk of what you'll need to know to get started with the Azure Enterprise Portal. Look on this site for additional topics covered in video format. There are also topical help files within the EA portal itself, and an EA portal specific support link at the bottom of each page in the EA portal. For now, this concludes the Azure onboarding session. Thank you very much for tuning in.